So in the subject of zoology, we are expected to know the internal anatomy of some of the animals. To have idea about insect internal anatomy, we can dissect out cockroach. See, cockroaches can be easily procured from the houses, and these animals are not endangered at all. So we can collect them and we can dissect this animal to observe its internal anatomy, particularly its alimentary canal, or nervous system, or its reproductive system. So when we dissect for its alimentary canal, we find that the different parts of its alimentary canal could be divided into pharynx, oesophagus, crop, gizzard, hepatic ceca, midgut, ileum, and colon, which is part of hindgut, and the posterior-most region of its alimentary canal is rectum. See, pharynx is a very small portion which is actually located just behind the labium. Actually, cockroach possesses biting and chewing mouth parts, and the lower portion of its labium that leads into or just behind it, its pharynx is located. So we can see these segments of its alimentary canal in the diagram, and also the glands which are situated in different segments of alimentary canal and help in digestion process. So for dissection purpose, say this one is a cockroach, you have to dissect it from the dorsal side. We know that invertebrate animals are dissected only from the dorsal side, and before dissection one has to remove the wings. The wings are very thin flap-like structures. They actually cover the entire abdominal portion. So you remove the wings with the help of scissors, and then the dorsal portion looks very clear, means you can see the different segments of its abdomen, and also the thoracic portions become very clear. And after that, after removing the wings, you make a very thin cut on the lateral side of this animal, including its thorax and abdomen, means thoracic and abdominal portion. Its lateral side on either side will have to be cut with the help of sharp scissor, and also from the posterior side you make a cut, and then these thoracic and abdominal segments of the dorsal side will have to be removed. So you very carefully remove the dorsal segments of its thorax and abdomen, and then you can see its internal structure. This alimentary canal is located on the dorsal side of the animal. So once you remove the abdominal portion or thoracic portion, you would be able to see the first long structure which is located here is its alimentary canal. As I said, the anterior most portion will be pharynx, and actually in this diagram its mouth parts are not visible. So if you remove the head portion, particularly the dorsal side of the head, then you would be able to see the anterior part of oesophagus. See, this is anterior part of oesophagus, which actually becomes close, or it reaches up to the close portion of the pharynx. So pharynx actually leads into oesophagus. This oesophagus is quite long, thin-walled segment of its alimentary canal, and it leads into a portion which is referred as crop. So crop is the posterior part of this oesophagus. See, this duct, long duct, is oesophagus. Actually, people consider that it gets dilated in the posterior segment, and then it makes a sac-like structure which is referred as crop. So the food is actually accumulated first in the crop, because it will be passing through oesophagus and then it gets stored in the crop. This crop leads into a small muscular sac which is referred as gizzard. So here a bulb-like structure is present. This one is gizzard. Internally its wall is highly muscular. And then this gizzard leads into midgut. See, this longest portion in its alimentary canal is midgut, and at the junction of midgut and gizzard the hepatic ceca are present. 6 to 8 hepatic ceca are there, and these hepatic ceca are actually part of alimentary canal because they help in secretion as well as in digestion of the food materials. And the midgut then leads into hindgut. So here at the junction of midgut and hindgut, there is a small portion which is called as ileum. Okay, at the place of ileum, so many thin fiber-like structures are there. These are actually Malpighian tubules, which are concerned with excretion, means their main function is to remove excretory materials, and such excretory contents are then finally released into the alimentary canal. And then ileum leads into colon. So this is part of hindgut, which is actually in the form of colon, and the posteriormost portion or colon leads into a small dilated structure which is called as rectum, and rectum then opens outside through an aperture called as anal opening. So these are different segments of alimentary canal. Besides this, you can see the digestive glands which help in digestion. One of the prominent glands is salivary gland, which is actually paired structure. See, one salivary gland is shown on this side and the other one is shown on the other side. It is highly branched structure. Two prominent, branched area of salivary glands are there on one side along with a reservoir which is referred as salivary reservoir in which extra saliva gets stored. On the other side also there is a salivary reservoir along with two distinct lobes which are further divided into several portions, and each portion of salivary gland possesses a duct. So this is one duct, this is another duct. Two ducts are there on one side and two ducts are present on the other side, and all these four open into a common duct. So a common salivary duct will be opening close to the hypopharynx, which is part of its mouth part. So these open, and the saliva actually gets mixed with the food, and it helps in easy passage of food into the oesophagus. So saliva that contains actually mucus-like substance, and it also possesses enzymes like salivary amylase is present in it, and saliva also contains uh, chitin digesting enzyme. It possesses cellulose digesting enzymes. So these are mainly carbohydrate digesting enzymes are present in the salivary secretions, and when food reaches to the gizzard and further to gizzard, then the secretions coming from hepatic ceca also help in digestion. Mainly the protein content, carbohydrate, and lipid. So you can say that lipases, carbohydrates, and proteases are there, which are coming from the hepatic ceca. Single one will be referred as hepatic cecum. So these are 6 to 8 in number, and they are also source of digestive enzymes. Likewise, in case of midgut, the internal lining of midgut is secretory in nature, that also secretes a number of enzymes which help the digestion of carbohydrate, lipid, protein, nucleic acid. So all these things which are there in the food gets properly digested with the help of enzymes coming from the internal wall of meat gut, and this portion is mainly helpful in digestion purpose. Some absorption takes place in this area also, but major digestion would be occurring in the hindgut portion. Hindgut portion mainly absorbs water, minerals, and the digested food content, and the undigested material will get stored in the rectum, and from there it would be released outside. So this is about its alimentary canal, and when you cut open the animal, you can also see in the ventral most region the nervous system. In this model, the segments of nervous system is also shown. Just at a glance, I can say that this middle cord is actually a paired ventral nerve cord. You can see the presence of abdominal and thoracic ganglia. So that is a different aspect. But if I tell you about the food of this animal is omnivorous. It means cockroaches can feed variety of food materials. They are those animals which feed on every organic content. They can eat both plant and animal materials, particularly such materials which is rich in starch, sweets, and greasy food materials, and also the meats, means dead animals are the food of the cockroach. They also prefer to eat on almost anything that is derived from something that was once living organisms such as plants or animals. So that is why I'm telling you that the organic materials are the food of these animals. They are found in dark tunnel areas, and whatever organic content is available over there, that forms the food of cockroaches.